Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, people of the world, thank you so much for watching and joining us for this exclusive interview produced by the Southeast Arrow. My name's Kyler Messenger, and joining me today is none other than Clayton Eftink. Clayton, you're 24 years old. You've just graduated SEMO, a former track and field and cross-country star. You've even jumped on the desk of a senator's office. Who are you, man?
I'm Clayton Eftink.
All right, Clayton, we're going to need a little more than that. Let's run this back from the beginning, man. I mean, where did your life start? Where are you from? How did you come to SEMO? And how have you made a life for yourself here?
Yeah, man. So I am a Cape Girardeau born and raised guy. I attended St. Mary's Cathedral right downtown and went to Notre Dame for high school. Always knew that I was going to go to SEMO. Both of my parents are first-generation graduates. This is where they met.
Awesome.
And it helped that we had a Division I program right in my backyard. I had the chance to walk on, do SEMO's cross-country and track and field team. For the academic side of things, my undergrad, I had 2 majors in finance and business administration, and I had 3 minors in accounting, entrepreneurship, and business law. So that took me 4.5 years. I applied and was accepted into the accelerated MBA program at SEMO, where I specialized in financial management. So it wasn't terribly accelerated. I spent an extra semester so I could keep running track my 6th year. But yeah, that's kind of the academic side of things. I was involved all over campus. I worked my way through several different leadership programs on campus, starting with the first-year leadership program. I worked my way to the emerging leaders. Both of those were my freshman year. They were semester-long programs. And was very fortunate to be nominated by a faculty member to serve as a presidential ambassador. So in my mind, that was kind of the pinnacle of my leadership journey. But in fact, I was very fortunate and very blessed to be appointed in summer of 2023, my junior year, to serve as the student representative to to SEMO's Board of Governors, and was appointed by Missouri Governor Mike Parson at the time. And so that was kind of the culmination of my leadership journey on campus. I was involved outside of campus on the SEMO Newman Center, and was very fortunate to be a committee member of the Young Professionals of Cape Area as a representative of SEMO for my time there. And so that kind of talks a little bit about the academic and the involvement side. Obviously, spending a lot of time running on the cross-country and track and field team. Outside of that, I always like to take it a little bit less professional to a little more personal. I like to talk about hobbies, and so I used to be pretty good at ping pong. Still pretty okay at ping pong.
All right.
And I grew up mowing lawns with my dad, and so I still mow a couple lawns with my dad, and I especially enjoy mowing our lawns. So I have way too many pictures of grass in my camera roll.
What would you say the first time you mowed grass was? What age were you?
Oh, I was not strong enough to push a push mower up a hill, so I was probably in, I don't know, 5th grade.
You've been working, man.
My arms were like this on the push mower, so.
Very cool. You've been working all your life. You have all these leadership positions at SEMO. You said 2 majors and 3 minors? So you're a hard worker. You can absolutely say that. Let's talk a little bit more about your leadership stuff at SEMO just before we talk about what you've done in the real world and what kind of accomplishments you've made. Why do you want to be a leader? You came in as a freshman and you were part of the freshman leadership group. Why? And then how have you kind of grown as a leader?
So I think I've just been very fortunate to have a wonderful support system with my family, my teachers at St. Mary's, at Notre Dame, at SEMO, all of the people that enable me to be here and to lead. And so I think it's kind of funny that some things also happen by chance. So my freshman year, I was walking across to the UC to have Panda Express with my buddy Justin Splitt, and there was a group of people tabling right outside the UC, and they were like, "Hey, here's a pamphlet for the first-year leadership program. We would love for you to join us." And I was like, "Okay, Justin, I'll go if you go." And I did. We agreed to go together, and I truly think that none of this would have happened had I not had that pamphlet, had I not said yes, had I not been there in that moment. And so I think, certain things are just a blessing from above, a miracle, and we just keep saying yes. I'm a big saying yes to opportunities kind of a guy, And so the opportunity to lead has been a blessing, and I hope that I've done a good job within the role.
So tell me a little bit more about what you've done here at SEMO, inside of these roles, how you've grown as a student, but as a person at SEMO as well. Tell me the SEMO side of things.
So yeah, I mean, the biggest one would be my 2-year term on SEMO's Board of Governors. And that was one of the most incredible opportunities I've ever been fortunate enough to receive. I had the chance to represent every single student on campus, and so I was very involved, different touch points, the athletic side of things, academic side of things in the College of Business, the Newman Center, different clubs, organizations across campus. And so through all of my different interactions on the daily, I was able to start forming opinions and sharing those with the board when we make big decisions on tuition or room and board fees or whatever else, academic changes, whatever may be coming up on the docket. I did my best to be informed and share those opinions with our board.
Very cool. So we're here for one reason, essentially, to talk to you. But we're here for a reason. You've been a part of a big project. You've been a part of a proposal. I would like to tell everybody the beginning, the middle, and the end of this whole story. We're going to start at the beginning, though. So from my understanding, you have turned a school research project into an actual proposal that has been sent to government officials in Missouri and the United States. Start from the beginning. I mean, what class were you in where you had a research project? You got the idea? Just start from the beginning. Tell me about this bill that you're involved in.
Yeah. So I would say the process starts much earlier, actually, than that class. And so because of my appointment to SEMO's Board of Governors, I was approached about attending a student leadership conference in Washington, D.C. And when I was out there, I had the chance to notice that there were similar students to me. By the way, the people that attended the conference were student body presidents and student governors from all across the country, the biggest schools. And the first person I met off the plane was a student body president candidate at Yale. His name was Austin Montini. And Austin actually ran track for Yale. And so it was my first time in D.C. We tossed our bags in the hotel and took a jog around, looked at the monuments. And I think that speaks to the caliber of the students and the things I was learning while I was at the conference. But again, what I noticed is that within my student governors group, there were several of them that were serving dual roles. And this dual role was as their student representative to their university, and then also as a student representative to their state's board for higher education. So in my mind, from what I've learned, there's kind of 3 different levels to student governance. There is my position, my former position on SEMO's Board of Governors. You have one student that represents everyone at your individual university, SEMO. The next level is a university system. So University of Missouri system, you've got Mizzou, UMSL, Missouri S&T, and UMKC. 4 schools. There is one student that represents everyone. I think the University of Missouri's is called the Board of Curators. There's many different names. They all mean the same thing. You've got the Board of Governors, trustees, visitors, curators. They all mean the same thing. But one student for all 4 of those schools. Second level. And the third level, which student representation was missing in Missouri, is the State Board for Higher Education. It makes decisions that impact students at public institutions all across the state. And I noticed that, and I was like, oh, that's super neat. And kind of just the thought happened in my mind, and I was like, I wonder who Missouri's is. So just a quick Google search, we don't have one. And so I was like, well, again, if there's a board that's making decisions that impact students, then it would probably be valuable to have student input on those decisions. And so there started the 2.5-year process of our efforts. And so one of the really neat pieces I got the chance to participate in was actually during my graduate studies, I took a quantitative and qualitative research methods class with Dr. Jillian Nicholas, and basically learned how to truly research at a graduate level. And the final was developing a research proposal. I was like, oh my gosh. You know those moments when your mind is just like on fire? It was probably 11 o'clock at night, and my heart rate was probably 100 beats per minute. I was just on fire. I was writing this proposal, and it aligned perfectly with what I was trying to accomplish within my coordinating board for higher education bill. And so what was really unique about that was I had the chance to have a academic perspective on what it looks like at a PhD level to propose research and then follow through with that research. So that was just one piece of the puzzle, was developing that research proposal and putting it into action to ultimately have a bill filed.
Okay, so let's talk about the bill some more. Let's talk about the research proposal. Talk to me about that research, and let's get into details specifically. What is this specific bill that you are trying to get passed? You're trying to get a student representative in the state of Missouri, but what does that mean?
Yeah, so Senate Bill 1674 seeks to add a non-voting, non-controversial student member to Missouri's Coordinating Board of Higher Education. This would be a 2-year gubernatorial appointed term, and it would be selected from current or former student body presidents or student governors. So it's pulling from a very high caliber pool, and we wanted the term to be 2 years, which is a little different than student government, where it's a 1-year elected term. Student governance, in my opinion, as in several states across the country, is typically a 2-year or more term, just because when you walk into a board, it takes a little bit to understand the nuances and how things happen. So we wanted to make sure you had that second year to really make sure that you were being effective with your recommendations. And so, again, the former kind of comes into play where maybe you have a senior student body president who applies and is ultimately selected. Let's say they graduate and they're still able to serve within that term, 1 year post-grad. So I think that it's a pretty simple bill, to be honest. There's not too many moving parts. The only thing that we ran into as a recommendation early on was we need to make sure that this position is not dominated by one of the bigger universities in our state. And so one of the guide rails, very simply, that we put in was that the position needed to rotate universities. So let's say one of the big universities in the state, let's say they're the first student appointed. It would take 3 terms before they could be reappointed again. So 6 years before they could have one of their students on the board.
Okay.
So I think that was really the only roadblock we ran into early, and we were able to solve that pretty quickly.
Very cool. So how does getting a bill work? How does that process work? I've never personally been involved in trying to get a bill passed. You're inspiring me. Maybe I'll, after this, see what I can figure out. No, I'm just kidding. But who has to approve it? How does that process work? Can you explain that for us and the viewers a little more?
Yeah, so similar to you and the viewers, I am a finance major. I don't have any political science background, and it was 100% a learning process for me as well. And I was very, very fortunate to have great leadership, great mentorship. One of the people that I was able to connect with along the way was former St. Louis, Missouri Senator John Dolan. And I noticed that it was in the early 2000s, John had actually filed a bill to give student governors, my position, voting power in the state of Missouri. And so I knew that he had a little bit of knowledge in the area. And so I reached out to one of my very good friends in St. Louis. Her name is Mrs. Sue Rector. And I said, Mrs. Sue, do you happen to know John Dolan? She was like, of course I know John. And I was like, of course you know John. But ever since then, we've worked for the last 2 years on the different things, the different steps that have to happen before we file that bill. So to kind of answer your question, how do we file that bill? It looks like you have to have an official draft written up. And so when we went to Jeff City this February, the first thing we did was we made sure to get downstairs to the Senate research analyst, and they were essentially wrote a 6-page draft for our bill. And I learned in that process just how specific and nitpicky you have to be. Like, obviously it's going to be Missouri law, so you really need to have your stuff ironed out. And I just thought that was really neat, seeing all of the fine details that go into it. But once you move from the draft, then you have to have someone actually sponsor it. Okay. And so I had some wonderful conversations with my Senator Jamie Berger, and he was really excited about the possibility of including students on this high caliber of a board, and filed it that day. As soon as we brought it to him, He was like, absolutely, we're interested. And so that's essentially the very long story short of what it looked like.
So run me through that personally. You're working on this for 2+ years. Jamie Berger officially sponsors. I mean, how did that meeting work? How did that make you feel?
Yeah, so one of the things I learned was just how long this process takes. I mean, we're used to things in the classroom, things in our lives being quick, short form content. I mean, it's immediate, right? And that's not at all how it works. It takes lots of conversations, lots of meetings, lots of time spent in research, several emails, several texts, several phone calls, and ultimately to have the opportunity to travel up to Jefferson City. I mean, I met with several legislators on both sides of the aisle, had support from both sides, which was really, really cool to see that. I mean, it meant everything to me. It was kind of a validation of the effort that myself, my professors, and all the people who had supported me through this process. It was, again, just that moment of like, wow. I remember the phone call from Mrs. Heather McNally, his chief of staff. She called me. She's like, hey, Clayton, Senator Berger has officially filed this. And for me, that was just like, wow. I was elated. I was so happy. And it was just, again, a culmination of a couple of years' worth of work.
So where are we now in this process? The bill has been created, it's been drafted, it's been finalized, it's been sponsored now. When we're filming this, it's the end of May. When you guys are seeing this, it'll be mid-June. Where is it now, and what's next? How do we keep moving? What does Jamie Berger do with it continuously? How do you stay on top of it continuously?
Yeah, so the way that we stay on top of it, the way that we keep it moving, and where it's at now is we were able to file it in, I want to say probably March, late February, early March is when it was officially filed. And through that process, the legislature is working on tons of other things. The budget's one of the big ones.
Right.
And, higher education, there was a lot of conversations around higher education this year. And this bill, I guess, it kind of got caught in the flow of things. And so nothing happened by the end of the session, May 15th. And that's typical. What I've learned is that's typical. And it can take a couple years to get a full bill passed. And so one of the approaches that Senator Dolan recommended to me was, hey, let's file this as an official bill. We may be able to, if there is another bill with a little bit more momentum, a little bit more consensus, we can actually attach this as an amendment to that bill.
Okay.
And so we were constantly watching to see if that was going to come through this session. Nothing materialized, and that's okay. So again, we're out of session right now. Pre-filing is December 1st. And so one of the things that I've been encouraged to do is actually to get support on both the House and the Senate side. So, for example, let's say if Senator Berger is interested in sponsoring this again in the Senate, we can have that going at the same time as an individual that may be interested in sponsoring it in the House. That way we have it progressing through both sides, allows it to move through a little bit faster. So.
Okay. How do you personally plan to stay on top of this process? I mean, this is kind of a two-part question. What's next for you, right? You just graduated from SEMO, so what are you planning to do, and are you planning to continue this project? This is your passion project, or are you going to keep trying to get this bill passed?
Yeah, so I think what I'm excited to do, and what I've had the opportunity to do, is build relationships through my student government experience at SEMO. And so different individuals, if they're interested in having conversations with their legislators, students on campus, I'm more than happy to say, hey, here's all the work that's been done. You're more than willing to take it on. If that happens, I am more than happy to have the conversations to just say, hey, let's file it again. Let's see if there's any momentum within higher education. I'm happy to do that. But what's next for me is I've accepted a role at Cuba Financial Group here in town. It's a local wealth management firm. Great people.
Awesome.
Really excited to start there later this summer. And so I'll be focused on building those type of relationships. But certainly I have a younger sister, Lauren, who is going into her junior year, and she's been involved on campus through the track team, the Newman Center. She's an accounting major, so Beta Alpha Psi, different organizations on campus. And so maybe that's something that she is interested in, or students like her. So I think, the relationships there, the relationships that I've had at my student leadership conferences. I will actually be speaking in Washington, D.C. We'll be up there the week of the 4th of July. So experiencing the nation's 250th in the nation's capital will be very unique. So I'll still definitely be staying in touch with with that industry.
That's so cool. So you're taking the finance profession route, at least for now. That's the way you're going. Let's talk about the legislative journey, a little bit about what you've gone through, though. I mean, you had 2 majors and 3 different minors. You've seen so many parts of the world, and some of them have clearly been interesting enough for you to even propose your own bill. What was that legislative journey like, and are you looking to maybe continue that someday? Who have you met? What's that process been like?
Yeah, that's a great question. So my legislative journey, I guess you could say, started actually probably 2 years ago. At that same Washington, D.C. conference, I had the chance to take a tour of the Capitol with my Congressman Jason Smith's office. And it was simply just an opportunity for me to really get to see what the Capitol looks like. At the end of that tour, Mr. Grayson Donnellan, one of his staffers, said, "Hey, Clayton, would you be interested in a congressional internship?" And in the spirit of saying yes, as I've mentioned before, I was very transparent up front. I said, "Hey, Mr. Donnellan, I have no experience in politics, but you know what? I would love to. I would love to see what the governance and the political world looks like." And so through that, I spent a semester interning at his district office here in town with Madison Baker and Mrs. Debbie Colliot, and wonderful folks. They taught me a whole lot about the legislative process. And so that kind of got some gears turning in my head of how things actually work. And so, my sister has had the chance to intern for Senator Josh Hawley here in town. Again, as an accounting major who wants to pursue accounting, but it was a wonderful learning experience for her to see the political, the governance side of things. But as for my future, I am planning to pursue a career in wealth management. I want to build the financial relationships.
Cool, man. Very cool. You got 2 majors and 3 minors. I'm sorry to keep bringing it up. Your sister's an accounting major, and she's interning with Josh Hawley. What do your parents do, man? How do they create such successful kids, man?
Yeah, so funny enough, my dad is in education. He was a science teacher and then worked his way. I saw him progress as an elementary principal and then as a superintendent. So lots of conversations around what education might look like. I think for me personally, I may steer away from the younger education, and maybe someday I would love to be an adjunct professor here at SEMO, giving back in the way that so many people have poured into me.
Very cool.
My mom is a nurse, and so again, both graduates of SEMO worked hard in the nursing program here. I am, as I always say, I'm simply a product of my environment. Both my parents were very present and very giving. I was fortunate to never want for anything, and I just came from an environment where we worked really hard for everything that we had, and as long as you kept faith at the forefront of your decisions, things were probably going to turn out okay.
Yeah. Look, man, it's not just a product of your environment. You do a lot of stuff on your own, so don't forget to give yourself a lot of that credit. Let's talk about you a little bit more. What's been your favorite part of SEMO and your time here? I mean, what have you loved? What have maybe you not loved? What are you going to miss?
Oh gosh, favorite part at SEMO has been the fact that we care so much about this area, about our graduates, about the students that are here. I have never, ever felt like a number in a classroom. I've never sat in a classroom more than probably 30 people. And so when you start going to other places with huge student body populations and huge professor to student ratios, I think you lose a little bit of that personal touch. And so the relationships that I've been able to develop with my professors have been even more than just professor to student. Actually, one of my favorite professors, Dr. Jim Caldwell, was in my senior photos that I took.
There you go.
And so it's meant everything to me to have those people constantly checking in on me, supporting me, pouring into me in my academic journey. So I would say that, my favorite thing about SEMO has been the support system that we have here, but also the encouragement to say yes, to take on opportunities, and they enable you, empower you to do so. So whether it was my constant athletic events where we have cross country in the fall, indoor in the winter, and outdoor track in the spring, we're constantly in season, but I never felt anything less than full support from my professors during that process, or recommendations for internships or jobs. It's been an environment of support and I've loved every moment of it.
Very cool. Very cool, man. Now, I got one question that backtracks us just a little bit, and I apologize, but I just thought of it. When you were researching this bill that you were a part of building, no pun intended, what other states did you compare Missouri to?
Yeah.
You know, you had a friend who was in Yale who had that role that Missouri did not have. I mean, where is Missouri lacking behind as compared to other states in student representation?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the things that I found through my research is that 20 states across the country have this position that we're seeking to create. Okay. 3 of Missouri's 8 surrounding states have the position: Illinois, Kentucky, and Tennessee. Interestingly enough, Illinois actually has 2 students that sit on their board. They have a graduate student and an undergraduate student. I was like, okay, makes sense. The more student involvement, the better. But definitely, that's where I noticed. I was like, okay, we've got 3 states around us, 20 across the country. This is just simply a step for us to kind of break even, to make sure that we are on par with other states across the country.
Subjective question, but the bill didn't get passed this go around. Do you see this being something that Missouri does get on the right side of someday soon?
Yeah, I mean, I think what we'll have to have is a clear vehicle for this bill to be attached to. So we need folks, legislators that are interested in higher education. And so I do believe that there is always going to be investment in our young people, because those young people are going to go out into the workforce. They're going to generate tax dollars. That's how the government works, right? And so I believe that investment in higher education is always going to be important, and I think that we've elected people that also keep that in mind. So yes, I would say whether it's this past session, the next session, or the session after that, there will be movement on this.
Very cool. Clayton, I got one more question for you, man. For students around the world, maybe trying to be like you, maybe trying to get their name in a bill, or just trying to make an impact, what would you say to them to get their name out there, to get hard work done? What's your message to students your age and students who are just around the world?
So I would say my message is to say yes. Say yes to opportunities. I've been very fortunate to say yes to that pamphlet my freshman year. I've been very fortunate to say yes to being appointed as the student governor. I've been very fortunate to take on an opportunity to say yes to proposing research for this. Funny enough, when I was up there in Jeff City lobbying for the bill, we were up there for 2 days meeting with several legislators. I was in Senator Nick Shore's office and just having conversation, and they said, "Hey, Clayton, you're a track athlete for SEMO. You're an athletic guy. Can you jump on Senator Nick Shore's desk?" And in my mind, I was like, well, I'm racing the mile at Mizzou the next day. If I fall and hurt myself, my coach probably won't be very happy with me. But, I said yes, saying yes to opportunities like that. And, I was a little nervous because I was pretty confident a table height I could jump on top of. The steeple barrier is 36 inches, so it's about as tall as your waist. But the table that they had me jump on was probably another 6 inches elevated from that. It was kind of like an L desk. And so I was a little nervous. I honestly did not know if I was going to be able to make it. I said yes, and I was like, if I fall and hurt myself, that is what it is. If I make it, it's going to be a pretty cool story to tell. And so, again, I said yes, jumped up, I made it, and, Senator Nick Shore said, "Hey, we're going to put your business card on our bookshelf, and no one else can have their business card on our bookshelf until you complete the box jump." And so I don't know how many people did, but I know that I was the first one. So that's kind of a humorous way to tie in the saying yes, but there's so many different opportunities out there, so many different things that are going to come your way. I would always recommend saying yes.
So let me get this straight. You jumped on a senator's desk? I mean, you explained the whole process, but I'm just trying to get, you are in the Missouri Senate. You're not nervous. I mean, maybe you're a little nervous, but you jump on his desk to get his approval, to get, I mean, that's amazing, dude.
Right.
Was that the most pressure you've ever felt in an athletic event or not?
I mean, that's definitely one of them. We run anywhere from 70 to 90 miles a week on the cross country and track and field team. So at that point in time, I was competing in indoor season, so I was pretty sore. I was a little tired. I had to make sure that I stretched out probably more than a typical person before attempting the box jump. But, yeah, I mean, I was wearing a double-breasted suit, and I was like, are you serious? You really want me to jump up there? And he pulled out his phone and started recording. And I was like, all right, I guess this guy means business. They were like, hey, the senator, he didn't have to take a step into the jump. And I was like, well, I'm in dress shoes. I'm afraid my shoes are going to catch the edge. I'm going to have to take an extra step. And so they allowed me to take an extra step. But yeah, I jumped up, and if you see the video, you'll notice that there for just a moment, I was on the edge of the desk, and I kind of had to wave my arms around for balance. But I rocked forward, I settled in, I stood up, I hit my head on the ceiling. But we did make it happen.
Could have got injured, but you didn't. You
Yep.
said yes, and you made it happen. Clayton, thank you very much for sitting down with us. Thank you for all the work that you've done. You're a great guy. Congratulations on the job.
Thank
Good
you.
luck to what's in the future. And everybody watching, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for listening. Make sure you follow and subscribe to the Southeast Arrow on all pages on YouTube. We'll see you guys next time.